So hey there, I'm Chris. I still have Parkinson's, and it's 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 been a few since I've I guess updated this podcast. But uh, so I found a co-host, right, that I think will complement. I think we complement each other pretty well.
Hey, good if I can
And,
stop laughing.
right, but yeah, she gets kind of giggly sometimes. But that's part of what this I guess this part of the podcast series is going to be. We're just going to talk and keep it real, kind of thing.
That's right.
So, without further ado, this is Melissa, and yeah, I'll let you tell us about yourself.
I'll say the last name for you. How about that? Yeah, I'm Melissa Herbcheck. Not Hercheck or Herbcheck or her chick or whatever.
Good pick,
And yeah, so I'm gonna be your wonderful co-host and try to keep it real with you. And I'm from Michigan, and all of you guys know that what side is it? Right side? This side?
yeah.
See, right there. Where are you from?
Virginia, we can't do that with Virginia.
Oh, I know. We could try to.
I could do
Okay,
West
so you're
Virginia.
the
I
heart
could
of
do
what? You're
West
the heart of.
Virginia. I could do West Virginia, and then I'm like down here, kind of thing.
Well, the point is, I'm on a mitten with the mission with Parkinson's here in Michigan in the Thumb area. Um, so what I'm doing here, so because I also volunteer for the Michigan Parkinson Foundation, MPF, they rock. Henry Ford, they rock, and
Nice.
yeah, and we're also part of Great Strong Foundation. So shout
Indeed.
out to them because we're here. That's what Party TV does, right? And we're friends to all. You're gonna see all kinds of people on here, all kinds of crazy people on here, crazy parkies.
Exactly, and because that's, I mean, well, I mean, at least for me anyway. Like the sharing, the talking, these stories,
It's
like that's
important.
my that it's important. That's my therapy, and I think that that's to help others
Yeah.
because it's Parkinson's. We get isolated sometimes, a lot of times actually, and I
Yeah.
think just hearing somebody else um, go through the same issues, same things, like our different similarities, I guess you could
Yes.
say,
Yes.
it is important. We learn, we grow, we realize we are not alone in this, and that's really important.
That's
You know,
huge.
to have that feeling, right?
I can't imagine. I mean, I don't live alone, but I can't imagine being alone because as it is, we all do suffer from that. We do feel isolated at times, even if you have somebody living with you. You do, no matter what, you're gonna feel isolated. It's like when we all met in DC. We all went 2 years ago. We all met in DC. It was like a few of us Parkies went for a summit there with PD Alliance. And it
Hmm.
was wonderful because it was like being around people that were just like you. It was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, oh, we were so excited because it was like we finally got to meet, but it was like meeting friends, but that you were just like each other, And that's what it's a beautiful thing. And nothing happens without support. I don't care what anybody says. Nothing happens without support. We can crawl into each other's. We can crawl into a hole. And we did for a while. We had to come out, but we need support big time. So that's
Hmm.
huge. Something I've learned
And
anyways in the past 10 years, almost 10 years.
yeah, and that support, like you said, I mean, it's I think at least with our group and our friends, and we're very very blessed to have it like this. I have no doubt that if any of us were down in that hole,
We always have one
there'd
that's
be,
we always have one that's bugging us, sending us messages, calling us, say, "Hey, what's up? Let's
right,
talk." And
and we'll get down in that hole with
with them.
us, and
Yep.
hang out or whatever, and then gradually kind of
Absolutely.
walk us up out of the hole, kind of things.
That's what support's all about. That's why it's support. That's why I think it's so important to you and I both of us that to talk about this with people and to tell our stories and to have support groups and to be there for one another because it's crucial. It's a
Oh,
human need that we all need to if we, whether we want to admit it or not. And those who do reach out and let us help them, that it's tremendous. There's a benefit, even though Parkinson's sucks big time. But there's the bonus part of it is the friendships we formed, and that we form, and we continue to form. New people we
exactly.
meet, and then new people that come along, and new people we can help out, especially ones who have had it for a little bit longer because they've gone through more experiences, just more knowledge, with that part, with the experiences. We can always help newly diagnosed ones, and that's what's really, really important. That right there is just does everything for us.
Yeah,
So,
because I mean, like you said, newly diagnosed. I mean,
that's huge.
at least in my case, when I was diagnosed, I mean, I knew like I knew the word Parkinson's kind of thing, but I didn't. I had really, I mean, my grandfather had it, but it was, that was gosh, 90s, right? So I mean, things were different then, and I didn't know there was such a thing as young onset,
Oh yeah, I need a
and hearing that and my limited knowledge and knowing um, what I knew then, I mean, it was a shock. I mean,
How long
let's
did it
just
take you? Yeah, well, yeah, for anybody. How long did it take? How long did you have to figure out? How long did they figure out till they knew what your diagnosis was?
oh gosh, at least 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, because I
Okay.
remember like my first symptom was it was my left hand, left arm kind of thing. Like so when I would type, and I actually think I did a video of this a while, long ago. My pinky and ring finger wouldn't. They would either stick or they would,
Twitch?
not twitch or just not move. Like either like I didn't have the strength to actually push the keys,
Yeah.
or they just, or I did push them and it just, stuck there. And then I noticed like driving. I would drive, with my arm, and granted during the warm months with the window down, I would have my arm on the windowsill. Say hi to Sam. Um, and I could turn. I didn't have any issue turning the steering wheel counterclockwise if I were turning left, but if I were turning right, I would have to like
Right.
lean into it. Um,
Oh, I know.
so went to that, went to a neurologist, and I mean, initially it was, hey, you've got a pinched nerve or there's something in your shoulder, right? Um, went to a DO. They did, CTs and scans and stuff. Gave me a shot of cortisone, and that was,
Wow.
gosh, probably 3 4 months. And they were also doing physical therapy as well. And I mean, no, I take that back. I was going to a chiropractor initially, and
All
it
before you
felt
get
great,
diagnosed.
right? I mean, it felt great because that was part of the physical therapy did, um, and that was wonderful. And then so between that and the actual physical therapy, which everything they did helped temporarily, right? Because
Yeah.
they didn't. I mean, we didn't know it was Parkinson's. We didn't know it was neurological. So it would be. I mean, literally, the therapy place was 6 miles from my house. Excuse me. So when I was there, and I mean, they did cranial. They put me in the little traction thing that stretches your neck, and they did TENS and deep muscle release and dry needling and cupping, and
Oh
you
my
know,
goodness.
and it helped until I got back home, and then you know it was right back because it was neurological rather than muscular.
Exactly. Yep. Gosh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah. So that was at least 2 years. Then went to another neurologist, and I walked in, and she's no arm swing on the left side, and she's like, "You've either had Parkinson's or you had a stroke."
And you're
So
like, excuse me?
right, I'm like, thanks, doc. Which one of these do I root for?
Pick a number anyone. You just got these two options though.
Right. Um,
There's no third one. You can't. There's no chicken card.
yeah. So, we did that, so she ordered MRIs, of course,
That's rude. It's
you know, to,
rude.
to, to rule out stroke.
Wow.
And in the while she was doing that, she's like, so let's start you on Cinemat, carbidopa levodopa, and a low dose. You titrate your levels up, kind of thing. And I showed a good response to it. So, that plus her physical exam, pretty much. I mean, I want to say pretty much confirmed her idea that it was Parkinson's. She then sent me to have a DAT scan, which showed what it was supposed to for Parkinson's. Like the right side of that area wasn't lighting up like it was supposed to,
Wow.
and then sent me, of course, to a movement disorder specialist, which then reconfirmed. And here we are, 7 years later. Because it
Yeah.
was my initial the first appointment with the movement disorder specialist was on my 42nd birthday, right? So happy birthday.
That's right. I know the feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the results from the DAT scan was, I think, in March of that same year. So I get to pick, like, I kind of have two, Parky anniversaries or Parkyversaries kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, here we are. We're 7 years officially diagnosed with at least two. So I'm clocking in right at 10 years.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And
It,
it's been a blur, right? I mean,
yeah, really, honestly, it has been. Yes. Yeah, because I remember mine was gosh, I was 36, and for 3 years prior to that, I was diagnosed here in 2015. So, but 3 years prior to that, I kept going to my PCP and kept complaining that I have every time I was at work, I was typing my hands with my left hand would freeze. So I was sitting like a pancake and it felt better. So okay, I didn't know what was going on, and I was never sick. I just wasn't sick. I was just lucky that way. I just felt lucky. So I never really went to the doctor. So I went yearly, with my insurance. But I kept complaining every time I'd go. I'd say, something's going on because my left hand kept freezing. I had a twitch in my pinky for 3 years, and I had a hard time with buttons and stuff like that, and like a clasp and clothing undergarments. I had a hard time with. She's like, oh, you have anxiety for 3 years. Yeah, oh, you have anxiety. Well, she kept calling the script for me to the local pharmacy saying, and then when I go back in there a year later, she's like, why aren't you taking your medicine? I said, because I don't have anxiety. I worked in mental health. I knew what anxiety was, but I didn't have it. And
yeah.
so she's like, so I realized I had to go to new PCB. Well, when you're in a small town, you're very loyal and dedicated to your local primary, right? There's not very many around. So I had to go to new PCB for do the same thing to me, do a checkup. But this new PCB, she's like, I think there's something going on with you upstairs in your head. I'm like, what? What the heck does that mean? She's like, I think this is more, you have to go to a neurologist. Basically, I have to go see a neurologist. I'm like, why? You have pinched nerve? Carpet tunnel? What's wrong? What's going on here? What do you mean my head? I know, because my hand, I just thought pinched nerve or something like that. Just something, real light, local, something silly that they fix, right? Oh, no. So they get me in, I think it was like 4 months later or something, that they could get me into the neurologist. I'm thinking, 4 months? What? 4 months? So they got me in like 3 months, something like that. Somebody said the time frame was just kind of a little off. I might be a little off with the time frame, but it's like 3 or 4 months, something like that. But when I went to see my neurologist, she said, no wonder I want to start off with, she's wonderful. She's Dr. Calla out of Bad Act. She's wonderful. So I went there and she did, it was like an hour-long assessment, and it was basically, she did the normal Parky test, right? Where we walk the line, separate, touch nose, follow my finger, count backwards, do this and that, everything else. And well, she left the room. She came back in. She had her front desk staff print all as a stack of papers. It was like a whole forest. Okay, I mean, dang. And so when I looked down, now mind you, I never once heard the word Parkinson's during this whole entire thing at all. So the whole entire hour I was there. And she goes, I want you to come back in 2 weeks and we're going to talk about this. Go home, take this home, read it, and we're going to talk about this when you come back. I looked on it, it said Parkinson's. I went, what? I said, this is what you think I have? She goes, this is the direction I want to go in. I'm like, you've lost your mind. I know you have PhD, but you've lost your mind. No, I'm not. What are you talking about? What did he? All I knew was it was something for old men. Okay, that's all I knew. And so I walked out. The girls want to give me a card. They want to give me an appointment card. I said, nope, don't need that. Not come back. Do all the paperwork. Wait. I'm out of here. Got in a car, called my husband. I was crying. He's like, what's wrong? What happened? I told him what she said. He's like, what do you mean? What's Parkinson's? He didn't even know what it was. And because we're only like 35, 36, and we just
Wow.
said, and so 2 weeks later, he made me go back. He's like, we have to go back. We got to get some answers here. We have questions. We got to get some answers. And so I don't want to go back to her. She's mean. She's horrible. She's telling me I have Parkinson's. She's so wrong.
The mean old doctor.
She was. So Rick took the day off. This time he took the day off, and he went with me to make sure I went. But I walked in there and I told her, I said, I'm very sorry for how I acted. Because I worked for a psychiatrist for 10 years, so I knew how to act. I knew how to act. But she's like, she was so understanding. She's like, you're in shock. She's like, I get it. But she goes, I want you for a second opinion. I said, that's the smartest thing I've heard in 2 weeks. So she referred me out to her mentor, Dr. Peter Lewitt, out of Henry Ford here in Michigan. I said, okay, so I'm on my phone going, who's this doctor? Does he know anything about Parkinson's? And of course he does. He's a very well-known pioneer in his field of MDS, movement disorder specialist. He's a pioneer. So, I got to see him about 6 months later, and he has the same darn diagnosis. And I was like, well, okay, so I was trying to come to reality with it. I was trying to accept it, like, what is this? I looked up a little online, but everything I read was scaring me because
Oh yeah.
I wasn't looking, I didn't know where to turn to. I didn't know who to talk to. I know what sites to get onto, what sites not to get onto. And everything I kept reading was like, oh my gosh, I'm doomed and gloomed, right? And I just stopped looking. I shut my computer away. I got so mad every time I looked anything up. It was a horrible things I would read. I mean, no, forget this. I'm not reading anything about it. But I remember asking Dr. Lou, I'm like, is there like any kind of oils I can have for this? He's like, honey, he goes, you're in lines in modern medicine. This is neurology. This is like all upstairs here. This is like, So, but he did say something that really, he did say something that really made a big impact on me. He's like, now when you go home, I want you to think about everything that happened this past 2 hours we talked. And normally you're gonna think about symptoms that you've had prior for so long, 10 years, at least good 10 years prior to this state, prior to this. I said, what? But that's when I realized because I said I can't smell it. He goes, oh, can you smell anything? I said, no, I can't. And he goes, okay, there you go. And I lost my sense of smell when I was 22 after I had my second son. So yeah, but having to go home, but after having that, Rick and I we remember driving home. It was like the longest drive of my entire life. It was the longest quiet 2 hours. We're trying to absorb everything. We're trying to just think about it. And we had, well, 2 out of 3 kids were home at the time, and they're like waiting for me to come home because they knew something was going on with me, but they didn't know what it was. They're thinking cancer or something. That's all. They're thinking something really, really bad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Because I mean, yeah, your mind just goes to
well, yeah, and they're kids. They
automatically
didn't know better.
the very worst thing, right?
Yeah, and they're my youngest two, so they were very young, and so walked in there. We easy minds go, well, good news, bad news is that not gonna die. But so we kind of we were the way I told them it was I kind of was related about it. Didn't want to tell them everything, but they're two smart kids that start looking things up on their own. And
Right.
it's like, gosh darn, those kids. So that's a great. But I have really two supportive kids that want to dive in and help me with it. So I mean that was really kind of cool. But at the time for 2 3 years, I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't know how to. I mean, the medicine I was responding well to. I know I was responding well to Recup and Coverly Dip. I was responding well to both of them. But I just didn't want to talk about it because I didn't know who to talk to, and it was kind of hard. It was really hard. I didn't know who to. I just didn't know who to talk to. Who to
Okay.
who's because if I said Parkinson's like my coworker, she's like, oh my gosh, they all act like I had the plague or something. I'm like, what? It was a very rude awakening for being that young. So.
Well, and
Yeah,
then like you said, trying to find our peers, I guess, with our young onset peeps.
yeah,
I mean, there was like I didn't know that there was even such a thing until, um, or well, let's say I didn't have contact with another young onset parky um,
Yeah.
until I was online, right? And found Eric and you and Heather and a bunch of other folks, but locally, I had no clue. I mean, because you mentioned Parkinson's in the local area, and everybody's like, "Oh my, my grandmother, my grandfather had it, or my aunt," and that kind of thing. And but yeah, I would say I spent a good bit of time like in denial,
Yeah.
or I should say, flipping back and forth between sort of acceptance and denial. Like I would tell myself, well, I have this. I can't really do anything about it to get rid of it, so there's got to be a reason. And I kept telling myself that, you know, that
But the
and
thing is, we don't have, I mean, symptoms we have now, do we display now, are so different than how it was when we first got diagnosed.
oh my lord, yes. I mean, it is.
Oh, like it's a whole 360.
It is. I mean, it's and I mean, granted, with typically with young onset, I mean, the progression is much slower. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, from looking back from then till now, I mean, I know it's almost like I didn't realize how easy I had it those first few years, right?
I know. And now I look back at time. I wish I would have told my first diagnosed self, you know what, chill out. It's gonna be good. It's okay. Enjoy these years because it's gonna be a shit show later on.
Exactly. It's just gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
how
that
did
is,
you go ahead? I say so how long before he told your parents? The rest of your family?
I mean, it wasn't. Gosh, I guess. Well, I think I initially, I think with mom and dad, I waited maybe a day or so, a couple of days, kind of thing. My grandmother was still she was still alive then, but my grandfather, who had Parkinson's, had passed. So like I really wasn't sure how I was, how I was going to tell her and like her reaction kind of thing. Because like I told mom, and of course I mean, as processing it as anybody would, it's how. She's like, well, are you going to get a second opinion? Did they, any meds or things like that, and that was it. But like I said, I mean, telling my grandmother that was
Probably really
difficult
hard. Yeah.
because, like I said, I mean, she was there, basically care partner for my grandfather while he was going through it, and and this is because she and I were very close. I mean, she essentially, raised me before. I mean, I guess up until the time, and even a few years after I started school, because mom and dad both worked, and I would stay with her during the
Yeah.
days. But it was, I tell. So yeah, I finally did break down, tell her, and you know, I think she accepted it a lot better than I did, kind of thing. I mean, I could
Yeah.
tell there was concern, and like she was, surprised, like most of you are, because of, like you said. I mean, I was, healthy, never got sick. I mean, I've had, colds, allergies, that kind of thing, but nothing.
Nothing major, nothing like to hoot and holler
Right.
about.
I think the first, gosh, I guess the first real like emergency room instance or whatever that I had was kidney stones.
Oh
Right. So I mean,
wow. Okay.
that was, you go in, they drug you, they zap them, and then you go home, kind of thing, right? But it was, I guess it was. probably 6 months later. I think I'd posted or you know posted something on Facebook maybe talking about Parkinson's and living with it kind of thing. And mom, who has a Facebook account but really doesn't do anything with it, like mutual friends that we had started reaching out to her and like, is Chris okay? What's going on, kind of thing. And
Wow.
I
Okay.
think I think that really when that happened, I think that really hit hard for her because I mean, and she called me and we were talking and she's like, I feel like I've not done a good job taking care of you, or I'm still here to take care of you, kind of thing. Like, I mean, it was a mom. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's different. I guess the perspective of the child telling the parent versus the parent telling the child, kind of thing. It's kind of the same. Oh shoot, I can't remember what the word is. I was going to say the same dynamic, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But
But it's
it
it's opposite though. It's like a flip. This is not how it's supposed to be, you know?
hmm
And it's how they're feeling, you know, because I know, because it took me about 2 years before I told my family.
Oh yeah.
Took you 2 days, took you 2 years. And I
Mm.
just, because I kept thinking, like, because I wasn't like, nobody in my family had it. And I was like, how did I get the golden ticket in life? Oh my gosh, you know, and that's how I acted. I was like, yay, me. And my attitude about it was very positive, even though inside I was just dying. I was dying inside. Honestly,
Mm.
I was dying inside, but I had a smile. I had put, I had kids. I had a grandbaby on the way.
Yeah.
My oldest, you know, he had a child, so we had things. I had life going on. I didn't have time. All I knew is I didn't have time for this. This nonsense. I worked full time, I worked overtime all the time. I had two jobs with my husband. You know, so like we didn't have time for this crap. We had life. We don't have time for anything that stops right now. We had a kid graduating. We had a baby shower we had to throw. We had a baby coming. We had two other kids that had to get through school. And then 2 years later, I say, okay, I had to tell somebody. You know, I've talked to my family about this because I was starting to show some little signs,
Oh yeah.
and I was just starting to show a little more signs, and that I couldn't control. So I shared that with the funny thing is I told my father because each one of my family had taken turns raising me, which I think they all did a great job, by the way. So and because each one because people still like me, I can't live it even have to be raised by each one of them. Um, so, but no, I remember telling my dad, and he seems to believe that, it might have came from his side, but he was adopted, so we're not really positive, we're not sure.
Okay.
Um, but that's just, we don't know for sure. And my mom, when I spoke to her about it, she's like, I'll never forget. It was so harsh because she's like, I told her, and she's like, I'll call you back. When she called me back a few hours later, she's like, she looked at DBS, and there's just brain. No, she didn't call it DBS. She says, there's brain surgery. You could be cured of this. Cured. I'm like, what? And so here it was. I had a hard enough time accepting it as it was. And she's talking about brain surgery. I'm thinking, oh, you lost your mind? And so no, don't talk to me right now because I couldn't handle it. First of all, I don't have time for Parkinson's right now. And now you're telling me you have brain surgery. What's wrong with you? Get out of here, fool.
Yeah, I mean
That's how it goes.
it's a bit of a jump, right? From
But yeah, it was like, can you let me can you think of like processes here? Because I was trying to figure out because I just under the rug because I had kids, I had a life, I had things I was responsible for. I had this job. It was like, no, I don't have time for this. If I just pretend it doesn't exist, if I eat better, if I work out better, it'll just go away. Is what I thought. How naive I was, but I just said no. And because everything I kept reading, but my third year, when I finally let my employer know. Anyway, I started looking for a support group in the area, trying to find something in the area, which if it was Rude Awakening or something in our area. Um, I found a Parkinson's support group in the next city over. And so I finally realized, I said I really need to talk to somebody who has this. I really need some help because it was my third year after being diagnosed. I didn't find it online yet. It wasn't on TikTok or anything, any social apps or anything like that yet. And my third year, and I called the hospital in town over. They had a Parkinson's group, but she told me, she's like, "Oh, you have young onset." She goes, "You're not going to come to this support group." She's like, "Come to this group." I said, "Why not?" 'Cause I was so confused, like, why not? And I'm like, "You're denying me to come to this group. Why?" And here I'm asking for help. I'm trying to, and now I'm being denied.
Right.
She's like, "Well, you're going to go to a young onset." I said, "Okay." Didn't know the difference at the time. Didn't understand what she meant. And all I knew is this other group was an hour and a half away from my house. I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Well, my daughter and I took it. Every once a month we went an hour and a half away from the house. But at the time when I first was called, I didn't realize that there was a difference between young onset and Parkinson's. She said, "When you come in here, I don't want you to be shocked." And I'm like, I didn't know until years later what she meant by that. I had no idea because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so then you know so I found out, I officially found out, but yeah, so for a good 2 years, I went to a group that was an hour and a half from my house. I was always late because I was at to work, got there half an hour late, but they knew I was coming,
Right.
The two girls from Lexington are coming, because my daughter always came with me, and she's a very supporter at the time, and but here I was always come from Lexington, so that the Lexington girls are coming, so. I knew I was gonna walk in late because it was my job. I left as soon as I could, and it was just such long drives. Yeah, it was hard.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
later on, yeah, later on, I wish I told more family members, but it was really hard to help family members. These people, my family, because they're like, they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do, they didn't know. It's like they all looked at, like, it's like I felt the pressure of, like, gosh, like I was always, because I was the oldest grandkid. And I felt the pressure, like responsibility, like, I'm the one that, had to do, I was the one that, helped to take care of the reunions, host this, host that. Now it was
I
like,
know
oh
that.
man, I felt like I was letting people down. If it sounds weird, but I felt like I was letting people everybody down.
I understand because I'm
And
eldest grandchild here too, so I get
yeah,
that feeling of responsibility or
and disappointments. I felt like they were disappointed. It was like, I'm like, you're disappointed. I'm disappointed.
well,
Yeah,
and
it's
and,
just,
and I'm sure that with as little as what I think initial prior diagnosis that we knew about it,
right.
they probably even less kind of thing,
Oh,
right?
exactly.
They're not.
Yes,
It's not.
absolutely.
It's not. I mean, it's not something you expect to hear. Well,
From a
for me, yeah, in my 40s, in your mid 30s, that
yeah.
hey, you've got a an incurable degenerative brain disorder.
Yeah, like,
Yay!
yay, woohoo! All right, let's throw a diagnosis party, huh?
Right.
No, that was not that's not the kind of party I wanted to host at the time.
Well, and
So,
and you talking about the normal Parkinson's support group versus young onset. There was no young onset support group. Gosh, I mean, I think I searched a radius of like 2 hours probably,
yeah.
and nothing was there. But I did. There was a Parkinson's support group that I went to, and yeah, I was, gosh, 30 years at least um, younger than everyone else there. And that's not to say that there wasn't information that I could glean from them, but it's the same, like, Parkinsonianism symptoms that we all had. But I think what really separated us was like the day to day challenges. We still
Yes.
work, like you said, you had kids, you
Uh,
had other responsibilities, and stuff like that, and navigating that, just, yeah, I mean, like the level of anxiety and everything else, like, increased, a magnitude of 10 almost.
I officially knew what anxiety was at that time. I finally knew what anxiety was, because that's when I started experiencing it. I was like, holy cow, now I know what she means by anxiety.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd never had a panic attack, or, I mean, I knew people that had them. I mean, Angie's had them, and the
Yeah.
first one I had, I was driving to work, and I stopped, pulled off the road, turned around, went back home, you know explained to her what was going on. She's like, I think you're having a panic attack, Chris. Um, I was like, okay, great. We're still going to the emergency room, kind of thing.
This is not normal. This does not happen to me.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
no, I had no point of reference, or
right,
baseline to apply to myself, so to speak, right?
right. Gosh, and now look at us, like 8, 9 years later. It's like holy cow. It's been a blur, but it's been fun. It's been crazy, and it's like the amount that we both have experienced and the knowledge we have now. And I mean, can you imagine 8 more years where we're gonna have PhDs in this thing?
Exactly.
If not already. So yeah, I just it's just so far. It's just I always say life was so fast. Was life for me was so fast. Was going so fast at the time when I was first diagnosed with the kids, and what was going on in my life was it was like a speeding train. It was like, oh my gosh. Now I'm on a slow covered wagon, even though and it's like it's calmed down, and I like the slow covered wagon. It's nice, but it's slowed down quite a bit because I know we'll get to all those things that go on with Parkinson's when you're first diagnosed and things that happen, and your experiences when you're first especially your first 5 years are crazy, but yeah, now it's slowed down quite a bit, which is nice. It's nice. So
And it's,
um,
I've
nice here.
talking about, pace of life and everything else. Um, I have found, I mean, in my situation that, I can still do majority of the things that I could before diagnosis, and well, before the progression messes with other things. You just had to do them slower, right? And
Yeah.
figure out new ways to do things, but generally, I mean, I've kind of always been a laid back person, so like the hectic lifestyle never really. I tried to avoid that at all costs, kind of thing. So it was
I
just,
did too, but unfortunately, it just kind of came with back the territory of having 3 kids, close in age. And it
oh
was
yeah,
like school functions and everything else. And my job, I had a high pressure job. It was just very it's like man, I
yeah,
was should thought about this, but it's just kind of how the car's dealt, kind of getting having Parkinson's, kind of here you go. And I tried to handle it the best way I could, but the thing is, for 3 years I complained too. I had insomnia. I couldn't figure out why. Well, wonder why now. The things you learn. And I don't know how I did it though. Chris, I'm not sure how I did it though, because I hear I could sleep at nighttime. I go to bed like be an hour or two before my alarm would go off. I'd get back up and I'd run. I'd hit the pavement running.
oh yeah.
And I was like, I could function just fine. I mean, I took whatever meds I had to, and I could function just fine. I had no choice. But then I tried. But then here but then I might crash for like an hour when I got home. But then I get up and like it was like a little nap. And then boom, I was up again. It was just life was just so crazy. Things now compared to when that compared to then. And so it's yeah, so much.
It's that hindsight 2020 kind of thing. But
Yeah,
it's perspective. I've the same kind of thing. I would work. I would come home. I'd take a nap. I'd get back up because I mean that's I think that's one of the things that you don't really find out that how big of a role fatigue and just how much energy is required to just do like small things, simple things, right? That
right.
we just don't realize because we don't know because it's not at the forefront of the doctor patient discussion or flyers or whatever that they give you kind of thing. So it's yeah, it's incredibly frustrating yet infinitely curious, at least for me at the same time.
Yeah. Well, now I mean, times change. How was the first year, second year, third year versus now is I'm totally different. I'm a different person. Completely different person. Which, I'm a better person. I think of it, but it's for sure grounded me in more ways than one, and That's one thing we're probably talking about on this podcast is the way how Parkinson's can affect you. More than ways one what it does to you, so what people don't realize the good things, the bad things, and all that. Keep it real on here. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All
So
right.
stay tuned, right?
Exactly. Well, I think that seems like a good jumping off point.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up, and you know, stay tuned. There's going to be lots of entertaining and interesting and just off the wall stories, I guess you could say.
Yes, that's
As
right.
well as just how we live day to day with this, right? And
Right.
unbiased, in a, well, like you said, just we're keeping it real.
Keep it real, and we're keep real. We'll have some special guests in here too.
Exactly.
So
It's going to be fun.
stay tuned. Yes.
So, all
Tune
right, folks, we'll see you next time.